Back at the Okta Gov Identity Summit, presented by Cyberscoop, Mark Hampton is Executive Education Advisor for AWS. Mark, welcome. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
Sure. What are some of the biggest challenges that government agencies are up against as they try to centralize, modernize their identity management systems?
Well, without a doubt, I think the first challenge is legacy architecture. A lot of the apps and the infrastructure on which they run date back many, many years, sometimes decades. And of course, identity in that kind of environment is handled within the application stack. And finding a way to federate across different applications with a single ID, particularly when you're dealing with different standards and different platforms, can be a real challenge. Mm-hmm. The second, I think, is just cooperation among agencies to move toward a whole of state or whole of government solution. A lot of agency heads or IT CIOs are pleased to say, yeah, we'll do that, but with our ID. And by the way, don't mess with it too much. And so getting a buy-in to this idea of, a digital ID that spans multiple systems and can be used to authenticate and provide that access is probably the second biggest challenge. And then finally, I think it's just an issue of resources. Budgets, IT staffing, we've got a lot of priorities. We're constantly being asked to reduce the size of these expenditures. And so making digital ID a high priority is often very, very challenging.
That's changing, though. A lot of governmental organizations at all levels are saying this now has to be a priority, mainly for customer experience reasons. So what are agencies, what are you seeing? How is that manifesting itself, that the customer experience actually changes for people that interact with an organization?
Well, I think, like a lot of things, there was a hidden blessing to the COVID-19 pandemic. I think it really exposed some of the weaknesses in the legacy approach to citizen-facing services. And we saw, as everybody knows, unprecedented numbers of people requiring citizen services that they might not have ever even thought of needing. And then, of course, on the part of state and local government, the need to coordinate that access. And also to move beyond just accessing, but being more proactive. Obviously, that did require states to be able to identify citizens that met particular criteria or particular demographic groups or whatever. And I think a lot of governments found themselves unable to do that because of a lack of a common identity or common identity standard. So I think as a result of that, we've seen a lot of movement towards coming to digital identity standards and and then of course zero trust is now an expectation of all government agencies, and that does require a single secure source of ID, of identity, and that I think has led governments to start to see this as an issue, to start to prioritize it. And I like to think that as a result of modernizing some of their systems using cloud technologies, they're able to achieve some of the savings, able to redeploy some of the staff to be able to focus on these higher priorities.
The cloud-based ID solution is really changing the game.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. AWS was architected to be the most secure, the most flexible cloud environment available today. We do that through a shared security model where AWS, basically ensures the security of the cloud, but the customer, in this case, the government agencies, are, responsible for the security of the application and the data in the cloud. Being able to do that, especially in a zero trust environment, requires having that single source of identity and being able to use it to, provide zero trust access to services and data for citizens, for employees, for service providers. And I think, as I said before, the pandemic really accelerated the need to adopt that, the awareness that it was needed, and I think the expectation that it be adopted from citizens and employees and others.
Mark Hampton of AWS, thanks for joining me today.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.